Alrighty, hello my beautiful people. What I wanted to do for this is give a brief review for your upcoming relational development paper and also go over some of the grading rubric guidelines as well. Normally I would distribute this in class and we would talk about it in person, but because we can't do that, I still wanted to go over the paper with you just because I remember being a student. I remember kind of just being given prompts and our professors were just like, figure it out. But I don't want it to be like that for all of you. So hopefully through this voiceover, I will be able to kind of discuss a little bit more in depth what I'm looking for your paper. And I'll answer any questions that I do typically get when assigning this paper. So let's start off with the prompt. And again, all of this can be found on Canvas, but let's start off with the prompt. So this is a relational development paper. It is worth 100 points. It's worth a huge chunk of your grade, to be completely honest, a great portion of your grade. So for the most part, if you don't turn in this paper, it's not looking too good. So make sure that you do turn in the paper, you start working on it. You do have about a month to work on it. A lot of it has to do with upcoming chapters, mostly from chapter 9 through chapter 12, but you can start working on it, start thinking about what avenue you want to take, because I'm giving you kind of two different directions that you can take with this specific paper. So it is, boom, let me use my highlighter. It is worth 100 points and it is due Sunday, May 17th via Canvas at 11:59 p.m. So make sure that you have everything saved, you have it all up and ready to go before then. If you want me to edit your paper or review your paper before then, you can go ahead and submit it through Canvas or send me a Google Doc or Google Slide or whatever it is. Send it to me. I'll go through and I'll edit it. Just make sure that it's not a PDF because I'm going to have difficulty accessing a PDF and writing physically on the PDF. So whatever you want to send me. Just make sure that you give me a good amount of time to edit it, and I don't mind providing any type of feedback, but also send me a follow-up email. Let me know that you submitted it and that you want me to edit it for you. Okay, so it's due May 17th and the length is 4 to 5 pages. And I know some of you are probably looking at this like, Cecilia, that is lengthy. Initially, and this is what I usually do, usually it's 5 to 7 pages, like minimum of 5 to pages and then maximum of 7 to pages. And that's because normally I actually combine these two prompts down here. So normally I have students write about a interpersonal relationship that they have and also film representation. So I'm splitting it into two sections here for you all, so you can kind of choose what you want to do. But I lessen the page amount just because I feel like y'all are stressed. Like if I'm stressed, y'all are stressed. But again, I'm here to help you. I'm trying to make the remainder of the term as flexible as possible. And I think with 4 to 5 pages, you're going to be able to demonstrate your understanding of the course-related material in a meaningful way. And whether you want to be self-reflective and talk about your own relationships that you have or analyze a media representation, that's up to you. But I think that you can do it specifically within 4 to 5 pages. And when we're talking about 4 to 5 pages, I mean like a full, like, ooh, that is not a cute color, but I mean a full 4 pages minimum. So it needs all the way to the very, very bottom. If you need to travel over to the 5th page, go for it. But don't give me like 3.5 pages or 3 3/4 pages. Give me a full 4 pages or more. Okay. If you happen to go over 5 pages, that's completely fine. But remember, I do go through, I read every single page, and that's why it takes me forever to go through and grade. And you're probably like, well, Celia, nobody asked you to do that. Well, I'm sorry. Okay. But it needs to be a full 4 pages minimum. So moving on, right? Normally people don't have questions about that, but remember, 4 pages. Also, put your name in the upper left-hand corner with the course. So Cecilia Gutierrez, upper left-hand corner, and then interpersonal communication, upper left-hand corner. Be mindful of the spacing, y'all, because I see it. Y'all over here like triple spacing it out, the upper left-hand corner, so you can hit like the 4 pages like I, or put like larger spacing in between paragraphs. Like, I notice it, especially going back to back between all of the different papers. Like, I can see the difference between one person's spacing and another person spacing. So make sure everything is double spaced. This, you could single space it if you'd like. I prefer if you single space it. The majority of the first page should be your information, right? Okay, cool. All right, sorry, I just needed to mention that because I did see a couple, not most of them were not like this, but just wanted to make a note of it just in case. So there's that. So let's go ahead and move on. So for this essay, you will use theories and concepts discussed in class to either analyze one, a real-life interpersonal relationship. So one real-life interpersonal relationship you are or were in. Remember, interpersonal relationships are not just romantic partners. You can talk about your friends. You could talk about a relationship with a family member. Remember, for this section, if you want to specifically talk about a relationship, an interpersonal relationship that you previously had or are currently in, it does not need to be a romantic partner. That's very important, okay? And I know a lot of people struggle here. You could talk about your relationship with your mom. You could talk about your relationship with your dad. And if that's something you feel comfortable doing, this is probably the one that you want to do. Or if you don't want to go down that route, maybe you don't feel comfortable self-disclosing personal information about your relationship that you have, you can instead analyze a movie. So the second part is a media representation, and it specifically needs to be a movie. It needs to be a film. Usually, if you looked at the previous tentative schedule, it had 500 Days of Summer on there, and that's what we were going to watch, and we were actually going to analyze it together as a class. But whatever you have access to, whether it's on Netflix or on HBO, channel like 5, because we have basic channels, we don't even have cable here, but I do have like Hulu or Netflix, whatever you have access to. If you want to do a media representation, choose a movie. It does need to be a movie. It needs to be some sort of film. It can't be a series. It can't be like Tiger King or anything crazy like that, okay? It needs to specifically be a movie. And so there are your two options. You only need to choose one or the other, not both. And see, typically I have students do both of these, a media representation as well as discussing your own real life interpersonal relationship, and just choose whichever one floats your boat, to be completely honest. You don't have to do both. You don't need to do both. I do not recommend that you do both. Choose one or the other. Okay? So there's that. So choose one or choose two. It's up to you. So moving on, your paper should answer the following questions, and you need to answer these questions in your paper. Answer these questions inside of your paper. You need to. Okay? So when I'm reading through it, I'm going to go, okay, did they answer this one? 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 So 1, what relational development stage is the film/your relationship at? And this might be a little bit confusing for you all, but this specifically relates to Knapp's relational model. Okay. So model. And if you're confused with what that is, we're going to be going over that in the upcoming weeks. But if you want to go ahead and start reading about it, that might help you start developing your ideas for your paper. So what relational development stage is the film, your relationship at, and that corresponds to Knapp's relational model. How did it get there? How did you get to the integrating stage? How did you get to the bonding stage? And watch, looking back at this or rewatching this video later on, it's going to make a little bit more sense, but there's different stages in relationship to Knapp's relational model. And so you're just telling me, how did we go from one stage to the next stage from that stage, and how did we get to where we are today? Next, or the individuals in the movie, how did they get from one stage to the other? So number 3, what are some key aspects of interpersonal communication taking place? So this is when we go outside of Knapp's relational model, and down here in this bottom section here, you'll see that you do need to reference and cite Knapp's relational model, but you also need to look at 3 other concepts that we discussed in the class. And the majority of them are going to come from chapters 9 through 12. All right, so remember, you do need to discuss Knapp's relational model somewhere in your essay, whichever, it doesn't matter which prompt you use, you need to cite Knapp's relational model, define it, use in-text citations, but also reference 3 other concepts. So this is where we get number 3, right? So what are some key aspects of interpersonal communication taking place? So this is when we start looking at other theories and other terms to demonstrate your understanding of interpersonal communication concepts. So number 4, how can the relationship communication be improved? And this is something that I noticed a lot of people kind of missed out a little bit on within their first paper. So I really do encourage you to focus a little bit more on this. Don't just put this little section inside of your conclusion and be done with it, but really look at different steps that you can take to improve your relationship with your partner, or that the individuals within the movie could have taken to prevent ending their relationship. So this is kind of where it comes down to everything that we learned in the term. So this is basically your final paper, right? It's due the very, very last day. I'm giving you a couple of days to work on it. I'm giving you like until what? Sunday to work on it, just because y'all have, I just want to make sure that everybody has enough time. Just because I know everyone's schedules are kind of crazy right now, and that's something that I really want to be mindful of. And I know my department, I went to like a 3-hour Zoom meeting, and we talked about synchronized versus asynchronized meetings and how we really need to be mindful of students and their time, and not just be like, okay, well, our class was supposed to meet from this time to this time, and be really stern about that, just because everyone's kind of going through their own thing. And I think that would be really, I don't know. Let me get back to the point at hand. So just make sure, okay, that you're answering these questions to the best of your ability. All right. And that's all I'm asking. Answer these questions here. I'm pointing like y'all can see me, but answer these questions here, these 4 questions here, and make sure that you are using Knapp's relational model, and you're using 3 concepts from chapters 9 through 12. Okay, but I'm trying to give you as much time as possible to work on it, and hopefully reviewing this, you will develop questions. And if you have questions, you can ask them to me in the forum that I'm going to post, or just directly email me, or we can always do a Zoom session, which I know a lot of people are kind of having difficulty with Zoom at the moment. And that's okay. Just let me know. We can talk about it. Everyone's kind of at their own place right now, and you and I, we can figure it out together. So let's go on to this little section here. Make sure to use vivid, concrete examples from the film or your life to demonstrate your understanding of the course-related material. So examples are very important. So not only are you identifying concepts or theories and defining them using clear in-text citations, but you're also demonstrating your understanding through the use of vivid, concrete examples. So moving on, this should be a reflective, in-depth analysis of the film or your personal relationship. So I should really have a very in-depth, clear understanding. And that's why I say, if you don't feel comfortable disclosing information about yourself, if you had a very difficult time writing your self-concept paper, you may want to analyze a movie, because that might just be a little bit more comforting for you, but you're still able to go through and develop those skills and have a broader understanding of the course-related material through media representation. And that's completely fine. It still abides by the different objectives that we have for the class. So either one will do. So in-depth, you need to be in-depth and use examples, okay? Concepts and theories for this paper, again, will come from chapters 9 through 12. You need in-text citations, right? Y'all know what in-text citations are, right? So according to Adler, uncertainty avoidance is ... And then if you're quoting, if you are using direct quotes or a direct definition, y'all need to be using quotes, okay? Make sure that you're using quotations, and when you are directly quoting, you need to put a page number as well. So if any, make sure that you are using in-text citations. This is very important. I should see in-text citations wherever you are defining key terms. So there's that, and then use them from the textbook. You may add additional sources to support your ideas. However, the only required source for this one is your textbook. So remember, the very first paper you wrote, It was literally just the textbook. The group paper that you wrote, that was a research paper, and that's when you needed to identify different sources. And for this one, if you are using a media representation, right, if you're using a film, you do need to identify the film. So that's the only other item that you would need in your works cited page if you do decide to use this one. But if you're just using a real life interpersonal relationship, you are literally just citing the textbook. That's all that is required of you for this paper. All right. But if you want to use more, hey, I encourage it. Go for it. Go crazy. But you do need in-text citations. I need to see the textbook. I need to see key terms and concepts in bold, like with your first paper as well. So you must cite your textbook in the essay as well as in your works cited page. Bada bing, bada boom. And then last but certainly not least, potential terms and theories to discuss. All right, so here's a bunch of different terms that you can discuss within your paper. These are just a couple of concepts that we are going to discuss for the remainder of the term, and it's really up to you. You could be like, hey, I see expectancy violation here, I see self-disclosure here, the Sternberg's triangular theory of love, let me use that one, and then let me also use Knapp's relational model. All right, it's really up to you. Most, if not all, papers will be very, very different, and that's kind of why I wanted to go this route instead of just saying, use 500 days of summer. I've had it before where I've had students choose whichever film they want to do, and to be completely honest, it's a lot more fun. To clarify, though, it does need to be a real movie. I've had a student before make up a movie. So just, I think I need to just clarify. It needs to be a real movie. It needs to be a movie. And it needs to be something that is generally accessible to the public, okay? So there's that bit of information. If you have any questions about this, don't forget to email me or ask any questions, Zoom, whatever, okay? So let's move on. This kind of looks a little bit funky. I tried to do it on my iPad and it kind of looks a little bit funky on here. So hopefully it looks a little bit better on your screen. But this is what we're looking for. With your first paper, I went through and I did the style guidelines, and it's basically this, but in a rubric form for you all. You are being graded on almost the exact same thing. So fulfilled the purpose of the assignment, application of class terms and theories, examples used, organization, and then style. So as you can see, these are literally the same items that we addressed for your first paper, but they're kind of broken up. So each section is worth 20 points. So fulfilled the purpose of the assignment, that's 20 points. Application of class terms, 20 points. Examples are worth 20 points. Organization is worth 20 points, and then style, right? So each of these sections are worth 20 points. So as you can see, the points are kind of distributed here. So if you do an exceptional job, if you do just like beautiful work, you do everything that I ask, boom, you get excellent, you get 20 points, right? If you did a good job, you did most, right? Most of what I was looking for, and each one of these are kind of broken down and it gives you a description. But if you did most of what I'm looking for, you're going to roughly get 19 to 15 points. If you did something that was just satisfactory, it was kind of average quality work, 14 to 10 points. This is kind of like the C's get degrees area, which we do not want to abide by. We do not want to live by, right? So this is kind of the middle, right? 14 to 10 points. We don't aspire for that. No. We aspire for excellence, 20 points. And then kind of the below average would be 9 to 5 points. This means that you're missing a good amount of information per section. You're maybe not answering all of the questions. The examples aren't very clear. You're missing definitions or references to key terms. So that would be 9 to 5 points. And then 0 to 5 points is going to be you're completely missing it. It's difficult to see this information or these bits there. So content fulfilled the purpose of the assignment. This is what I'm looking for. All required elements, questions from the prompt are present, answered well, and executed strongly. You may lose points for not reaching page requirement. So this whole section, let me put another color on. This whole section has everything to do with the prompt. Did you follow the questions that I asked you to answer over here, right? Did you Did you do that? Did you choose one of these two? Right? First and foremost, did you answer these questions thoroughly? Right? And did you use the concepts that I asked you to use? Or did you just completely not follow the direction in a sense? So did you fulfill the purpose of the assignment? You get 20 points for doing that. Application of class terms and theories. So in total, right, you have 4 concepts. 4 concepts should be bolded. 4 concepts should be defined. There should at least be 4 in-text citations, for one for each concept, right? So, and there should be in-text citations. So if you do all of that, all terms were clearly defined, cited properly, and I don't know where that C is from, but illustrated through examples, bada bing, bada boom. You get a whole 20 points. Examples were thoughtful and clear, thoroughly explained, you get 20 points, right? The examples should clearly relate back to the terms and theories discussed. And then we have here organization, clear, introduction, body, conclusion. You provided a thesis, right? This is within your introduction. You should tell me exactly what you're going to discuss within your essay. It should be so clear as daylight to me which prompt you are doing. I shouldn't kind of be like, wait, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? No. So for this one, it should be very well organized. It should have one voice. The information should flow and it should make sense. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about organization. And then again, you start losing points when you're missing these components. And then last but certainly not least, we have style. So we should be using correct MLA format, in text citations, not only go with like the application of key terms and examples, but it also goes with the style. There should be a works cited page, references, you should be referencing the textbook, grammar, and spelling. So this, I was going to say it kind of goes hand in hand with the organization, but not like there should be transition statements between, right? Each paragraph, it should flow well, and that kind of goes part of organization, but it should be written decently well. If there are a lot of grammatical errors, sentence structure errors, it's difficult for me to kind of go through and read. This is where style comes into play. And of course, content is extremely important. I don't want to be like hypercritical, like, oh, there should be a comma here, there should be a space here. But if it is difficult for me to read, it's going to take me more time to understand what message you are trying to relay. And remember, this is a communication class. It's not just about public speaking. It's not just about talking one-on-one with one or two other people, but it's also in written form. Are you clearly relaying your message to me? Do I understand what you're saying? And that goes back to style. So there should be clear in-text citations and terms and theories from the textbook. The textbook should be cited in works cited page. Free writing about a relationship or a movie without directly addressing course related materials will impact your grade greatly. So don't just like look at the prompt and be like, I'm not going to read the rest of what Cecilia wrote. Let me just write about myself and write about a No. Remember, you have to demonstrate a competency of subject matter. It's really important. And then paper should demonstrate competency of course related materials. See, that's what I just said. Application of theories, concepts within real life, or apply to media representation and follow prompt guidelines. Very important. So you can't have one without the other, right? This looks crazy, but this is just as important as the grading rubric, right? We need to follow all of these guidelines in order to even kind of just take the second step and reference back the grading rubric. So when in doubt, look over these 2 items. You have until May 17th, and if you start writing something, even if you have like a little outline organized and you want to be like, hey, Cecilia, does this look about right? This is what I want to do for my introduction. And then I want to talk about this, and this. Let me know. Like, just send it my way and we can have a discussion about it. Okay. So if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, let me know. I hope this was somewhat helpful. I believe I answered the majority of the questions that students have kind of within addressing the prompt and the grading criteria in itself. But if you do have any additional questions, please please do not hesitate to reach out, because more than likely other students will have questions as well. And if you ask me, I'll be able to address them to all of the class and all of the students so that we can all have a clear understanding of expectations. So I will see you all in the next one. Have a great week, okay? Bye-bye.